Our greenhouse is pretty empty except for a few seedlings that we haven't gotten out yet and the Dutch bucket tomatoes. I'm standing in front of the biggest consumer of power in the greenhouse. That's this cooling fan behind me. The fan can be operated in one of two modes. It can be run just as a standard fan, blowing air from outside through the greenhouse to blow hot air out. The other, more efficient way is to use it as a swamp cooler, an evaporative cooler. In order to do so, I have to have enough water to spend on this evaporative cooler. But when I do, it cools the air temperature down a large number of degrees over the outside ambient temperature. That's great because it's a lot more efficient. We have a floor stand fan that we run in order to have a breeze go across our hydroponic tomatoes. That's important for a few reasons, one of which is it helps improve the transpiration of the plants, which means it will take up more water, which means it'll take up more nutrients, which ultimately means it delivers more nutrients to the fruit and the vegetation. Behind it is our 30,000 BTU heater that runs on propane. It's decommissioned right now. I need to put some plastic over it to protect it from dust. But I have an external tank on the outside of the greenhouse that holds about 25 gallons. That will last us a bit better than a month. The cost for that is around $50 a month. The Dutch buckets themselves were free. I got them from a grocery store just to take them away. I then cleaned them out because there was still frosting inside, drilled a hole for the grommet, painted them, and then added about $1.25 worth of PVC fittings to make the bucket work the way it's supposed to. The discharge from those buckets goes into a PVC discharge tube that returns the nutrient back to the reservoir. The air pump stays on all the time. It runs air to an air stone in the bottom of the reservoir. That pump uses about 11 watts when it's running. So it requires about 264 watt hours of power over a 24-hour period of time. The reservoir is covered by a tote cover. That's to reduce evaporation. As you can see, the air stone brings air up through the reservoir nutrient solution to help oxygenate the water. In the bottom of the reservoir is a diaphragm-based water pump. That water pump uses about 26 watts when it runs. It runs 6 times a day for 15 minutes. So over the course of 24 hours, it runs for an hour and a half. What kind of return, what kind of cost do we see for this system? Well, what I can tell you is, right now, we have Roma-style tomatoes developing. We have cherry tomatoes developing. And we'll have some of these tomatoes off relatively soon. We have an Amanda orange tomato that's a little bit bigger than the size of a golf ball, which is really, really fun. So, there's times in the summer when we don't get tomatoes because we have too much wind, too much heat, too much drying, too little water, and there goes the fan. These tomato seedlings were started from suckers and a couple of branches that came off tomato plants before we planted the tomatoes out in the garden. We did that for two reasons. One was to extend the season possibly for those tomatoes, and more importantly, some of these tomatoes we only had a few seedlings. So what we're trying to do is hedge our bets against damage from squirrels, rats, the wind, and excessive heat. Our sets of solar panels can produce about 1200 watts each, so about 3600 watts between about 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 or 3 in the afternoon during reasonable daylight hours. This is more power than what the batteries can absorb, and generally speaking more than what we can use in the house. So we have some excess available for operating other devices such as our greenhouse. Irene's studio also has 1200 watts worth of solar panels which are dedicated specifically to her studio. Our solar system relies on battery storage for operation at night. During the day when the sun is out and we're generating enough electricity, we put power back into these batteries. The batteries hold 1700 amp hours apiece. Combined, our inverters are able to generate about 50 amps of AC power. Electricity from the solar panels is managed by these charge controllers. There are 3 charge controllers, each one of which manages one set of 4 panels. As backup for our solar panels, we have a 6,000 watt continuous operation generator. The generator can run on either gasoline or propane. We run on gasoline most of the time because it's more cost effective. Well, I hope that provided you with a little bit of information about how much it costs to run this system over the course of a year. During the summer months, the marginal cost for electricity is 0 to run the system. In the wintertime, it's a little bit different, but the cost is still a few pennies a day. The big issue here is water cost and nutrients. Everything else is pretty much a sunk cost. It's something we're going to be paying for no matter what, every day, any day. Now, when I'm running it in the summer for cooling the greenhouse, it's best if I have the evaporative cooler set up to actually run as a cooler as opposed to just a fan. Well, I hope you found this interesting. It's something that I've studied for the better part of 40 years. I've researched a number of different styles and techniques, and the Dutch bucket has some advantages. I'll give you a little bit of information about the history of Dutch buckets and why they're called Dutch buckets. It's very simple. The buckets used by commercial growers were designed and developed by a company in Holland called Beto Plastics. Dutch bucket is that it's designed so that it minimizes the number of connections that have to be made outside of the bucket. So it minimizes space, it makes it simple to pick up, makes it simple to clean. You have a reservoir in case, for some reason, the system fails to circulate some nutrient. And here comes Irene with seedlings. They're going to be in the greenhouse while we're gone for a day and a half. Well, thanks for watching. I hope this was of interest and of help to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for heaven's sake, hit the bell for notifications, because we're always doing something crazy on our homestead. Right now, we have to go down to Phoenix to attend a meeting tomorrow. Have to be there at 8 o'clock, so we'll leave this afternoon, stay overnight. Irene's brought some seedlings in to save them from the savage winds. We've been having high winds here. If you're a boater, it's heavy winds. If you're not, it's above 25 miles an hour, an awful lot. So it makes it hard to stand up, and it really beats the daylights out of our plants. Well, in any case, thanks for watching. We'll talk with you later. Bye. Bye.